Hi everybody, in this video we are going to solve some equations for a variable. So we'll start with the surface level here. Our variable, as you can see, is x. And so we're going to essentially play the game of doing inverse operations. So whatever we see, we're going to do the opposite of that. So for example, right now 3x is being added together with 48. We are going to do the opposite of add 48 and subtract 48 to both sides. So as we know, we want to balance the equation out. 3x we did nothing with, and 90 minus 48 is going to be 42. Now we see 3 is being multiplied with x, so the opposite of multiplying is dividing by 3 and divide by 3. So once we're done with x, we're going to have x all by itself now, and then once we finish 42 divided by 3, we are done, and I think that's 14. Remember, one way to check to see if your answer is correct, you could go 3 times 14, find out what that is, then add 48, and ask yourself, is that equal to 90? And we know that 3 times 14 is 42, and is 42 plus 48 equal to 90? And the answer is yes. All right, let's move on to the deep level question. There are two things happening here on each side. It's called the distributive property. So what we want to do is make sure that we're distributing -3 in this case to both terms. That gives you -3x, and -3 times +1 is -3. On the right side, we've got 6 times x and 6 times -5, giving you 6x and -30. Now, this is different from the last one, right? Like a variable was all by itself on one side already, and on this one, you have a variable on each side. So I'm going to give you my pro tip. I'm going to put a little star above the -3x right here, and I like to find the smaller of the two variables. So for example, -3x is smaller than the 6x. And so why do I choose to work with that one? Well, if we want to undo -3x, then we need to add 3x. And so I'm going to add 3x and balance my equation on both sides. And I'm left with -3 on the left, but more importantly, 9x. That's a positive 9x. So that's why I choose the smaller variable term to move to the other side, because then it allows me to have a positive variable. And I don't have to worry about dividing by a negative at the end. Okay, 9x is now by itself. Let's say it's let me rephrase that. The variable term is on one side only. And so what we want to do now is say get rid of everything else on that side. So for example, instead of -30 or subtract 30, we're going to add 30. And then we're going to balance our equation by adding 30 there. So we get 9x is equal to 27. And then we've got 9 multiplied by x, so the opposite of multiply is divide by 9 in this case, and 3 equals x. Again, you could take that 3 and plug it in to the originals and see if it works. All right, our last question in this video is the mastery level type. Putting it all together, we got a lot of distributive property. So for example, we've got a parentheses there, quantity, a negative in front of that, and we've got a -4 in front of that set of parentheses. We got to do that first. Now, there's no number there, but I'm going to remind you that that is -1, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and distribute this -4 times that 2x and times that +5. So we're going to get -8x and -20. Over here, we're going to go -1 times 2x, which is -2x. All right, and then -1 times -6 is +6. I'm going to bring down everything that I did not change. So 8 plus 3x minus 10 equals 7 and -8x. Okay, now let's start combining like terms. So when we do that, let's look for maybe the variable term. So -8x on this side and +3x. If those variables are on the same side, we need to combine them. You don't have to move them to the other side. Let's just simplify right now, okay? So that's going to be 8 negative x's, 3 positive x's. You're going to be left with 5 negative x's, okay? Over on the right side, we've got 2 negative x's and 8 negative x's. So combined, you're going to have a total of 10 negative x's. All right, let's move on to our numbers. So we've got positive 8, negative 20, and negative 10 on the left side, okay? So we have 20 negatives, 10 negatives, and 8 positives. So this is a 30 negatives, and you have 8 positives, leaving you 22 negatives. On the right side, we have a 7 and a 6, and they're both positive, so we're going to have 13 positives. Let's bring down our equal sign. Remember, always bring down that equal sign. There it is. And now this is looking more like our last question that we just solved. We have a variable on each side. We have a negative 5x and a negative 10x. If you remember my suggestion, work with the smaller variable. That's negative 10x in this case. So what we're going to do is go ahead and do the opposite of subtract 10x, which is add 10x to both sides. And we are now left with 13 on the right side, and we're left with 5x minus 22 on the left. So my next step is going to undo the subtract 22 by add 22 to both sides. And we're going to be left with 5x on the left is equal to 35 on the right. If we divide both sides by 5, x will equal 7.